What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Side Hustle, and on this episode, I get to sit down with Nick Pollack. He is the CEO and founder of Pitcher List, not Pitchers List, but Pitcher List, a very successful fantasy baseball website that started in 2014. We're going to talk about its growth, how it's developed since then, and its entrepreneurial success on this episode of Side Hustle. So in 2014, you began Pitcher List.
Yes.
What led you to that? Like, what was going on that you were like, you know what, I want to start this?
Yeah, I'm a guy that likes projects. I did like a music thing the year before just because I had a good amount of free time. And I was giving pitching lessons. I pitched in college. I love fantasy baseball, love talking about it, actually to the point that my friends didn't want me to talk about it anymore. I had to find other people to talk about it to. And I found a GIF online of Matt Harvey throwing a fastball on an outside corner, zoomed in, super slow motion. It looked gorgeous. And all I thought to myself was, I just want to watch this over and over again. And there's no place to go and see GIFs. And I learned how to create WordPress sites with my other job. And I was like, you know what? This is what I can do. I can figure out how to make a GIF. I remember having a conversation with my friend watching football in November, saying like, I think I have this idea for a GIF site, and I want to call it Pitcher GIFs. And I want to just have a GIF database of every single pitcher in the majors. And I planned it all out. I wrote out all the different things I would have on the site, how the table would look, the different architecture of the site. This is before I got into like Google Sheets or anything like that. I actually wrote it out by hand. And it's one of those things where you always think about ideas, but until you start actually doing it, you know, you're never gonna have the perfect time to do it.
So what was sort of going on at that time? Like, did you have a job that you hated? And you were like, I just kind of want to start this and just build it up and see where it can go.
Yeah, that's a good question. I had a job running a website for a film distribution company. And it was one of those things that, you know, I had a lot more time than I thought I would have, and I was working at home. And it was also one of those things where I wanted things to do at night. I'm often up past midnight, and I wanted something focused that I was doing.
A lot of baseball's played at night.
Right, exactly. So I would be watching games and stuff, and I'd be staying up. And I just found myself, you know, continuously putting things together. And it's fun making projects. I'm just kind of a project guy. I like seeing things come to fruition and, you know, having a challenge of, hey, how am I going to make this work, and just messing around with it. And considering that no one was looking at the site, no one had any idea that this thing was getting made, I felt the freedom just to mess around and make mistakes and just see what I liked. And eventually it turned into Pitcher GIFs in 2014.
Well, it's been 5 years now, and there's been a lot of growth. You have a whole team, like a staff of writers. You have people that have, you know, Pitcher List in their bio, that they're contributors there, and you're paying these people too, which I think people should know from an entrepreneurial standpoint. That's important.
Yeah.
But did you foresee any of this 5 years ago? If I take Nick Pollack 5 years ago and be like, all right, you made this website, and what would have been your 5-year plan back then?
So I started developing in 2013. Then 2014 launched it as Pitcher GIFs. It's Pitcher List now, because we actually got a cease and desist from MLB that first year. They didn't want us having any GIFs anywhere. So I got the initial notice, and I thought of it as an opportunity, because I did a really nice piece on Jose Fernandez when he went down with Tommy John surgery in 2014. But I did that piece, and they reached out saying, yeah, no, you're having audio and video of it. You're essentially stealing the content. I'm like, no, this is just GIFs. You don't understand. It's just a 3-second clip. And I thought, I was like, oh man, I have this really cool thing, Pitcher GIFs, that Reddit really embraced, and the Twitter account was getting much bigger, that, oh, I could do all these things, like a mobile app I could develop with it, and maybe I could work with MLB themselves to do this because no one else is doing this, and it clearly has, you know, it's something that's resonating with baseball fans. So I tried to reach out with them, and it just made the whole thing go south, and I had to bring down the site essentially because I didn't want to, I didn't want to anger them. Obviously, whatever feelings I had about the site, I wasn't going to go against MLB and everything like that. I had to respect what they wanted. It was something where I had to take away the GIF database, but the writing is what I enjoyed. I found myself just wanting to do it just to write these articles because I needed something else than just the GIF database. So I wrote articles talking about pitching. That's something I know about. And I really missed that aspect of the site and turned it into Pitcher List, where I would do that same writing, but also add in this weekly ranking. And then over time, I just had people email me saying that they wanted in, which is still ridiculous to me.
And when was that? When did you really feel like you started to see that growth?
Yeah.
And was there a time early on where you were like, this is stupid, let me go on to a different idea, and you almost, sort of abandoned it?
Sure. It was, I mean, every year it kind of got a little bit more word of mouth. Reddit, again, was a huge factor. I just kind of showed up one day in 2014, said I was an expert, and they listened to me. I don't know why, but they did. And I started doing an AMA every Friday. And every opportunity I would have to interact with everybody, I would go after that. I would initially start trying to find other people and say, hey, I have this thing, hopefully you want to be a part of it. But it was only until, say, 2016 was when some people started randomly emailing me saying that they wanted it, and that was ridiculous to me. I mean, I had opportunities like at Washington Post in 2015. I was able to write for them because of the GIF content I was doing. I was able to meet Paul Spore and Eno Saris of Fangraphs in 2016 and create a relationship with them. Slowly and steadily, more people, I guess, bought into what we were doing with fantasy analysis. And with every step, it's like, okay, cool, we want to do this, but I kept, I don't know, checking in on everybody. What do we want to do? What can we do? And I always would pay people because I just felt if you're putting your time into something like this, if you're writing and just I guess helping this idea of the site, that you should get something back for it. I mean, a lot of my friends would be saying, hey, so how much are you getting back from this? And I've never taken anything, actually, from Picture List, just because it doesn't make sense to me. This isn't for a quick buck. It's about actually creating something that I truly believe in. And if I don't truly believe in it, if I feel like I need to take money now, then I don't expect other people to.
Yeah, how important was it for you to be able to pay people? Just because?
Oh yeah, no, that was a necessity.
Yeah, because that's something like from a business standpoint and from an individual standpoint, when you're somebody independently starting a business,
right,
you're usually not going to have the money. Like, part of you starting that business is, you're taking the negative and you're trying to build something and you're not able to pay the people you're working with. Exactly. But you were able to get to that point when, and again, why do you value that?
So I know for a fact 2015, anyone I would bring in, I would be paying.
So 1 year in.
So yeah, 1 year in, I was just, well, the idea to me was, okay, I'm not, I have to do this. It just feels right to me. At that point, obviously, it was me. It was like, this is something that I have, and I just felt like, yeah, of course I have to pay you for that. It doesn't, this is something I'm looking for. I want to pay you for your work. What did help is that I did the thing for Washington Post. I did a couple other things here and there that, that would pay me back. So anything I made there, I would invest back in. And obviously having having that job still and making a living that isn't this, so important. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without that. So I was fine otherwise. This was just my free time. This was my hobby. Yeah. And I just saw it as investing in your hobby. With Washington Post, Neil Greenberg found me on Twitter. And that was a huge thing for me, is really just being a presence on Twitter with pitching gifts. I would just take a day, watch games as I saw them. I would put them straight on Twitter. To identify, like, guys, this is legitimately nasty, not just like the camera angle, being really stupid or something.
And there's a level of enthusiasm that you would have.
Man. I still have it. Oh, God.
Right. Yeah. It's like when we talk about it, on the MSG show, whether we're on or off camera, like, I can sense that enthusiasm when, like, a nasty slider from Chris Sale right out the zone.
It's like that, but it's also, I know how much he wanted that to happen, and to see him execute it, I'm just like, oh, I'm so happy, man. Yeah. That guy's doing what he's trying to do, and he did it. He wanted to hit that pitch there, and he got that, and that's just such a great feeling. I remember being addicted to that as a pitcher myself. So I just want a splitter right here that falls out of the table, off the table, down and away, and to execute it properly, that feeling, that strut. There is no better feeling in that world, that strut. After you strike a guy out and it's swinging, as you wait for the ball to come back to you, that's really, there has been no better feeling in my life. Yeah. So yeah, using Twitter was one of the biggest tools and got me noticed by a lot of people. And that Neil approached me and said, yeah, we would love to have gifts. We would love to, that's like kind of like the new up-and-coming thing. If you could just talk about the best pitch of the week or talk about certain pitchers and incorporate that kind of stuff.
How important is it for you to maintain that enthusiasm? Because like not even just you, but anyone starting a business. Sure. And then you're a few years in, like, how important is it for you to maintain that enthusiasm? Because then you want to keep involved, keep growing, and keep the business running and keep being more successful. I mean, the whole thing is you selling your product, right? Whatever it is. And if selling it is about selling yourself. It starts with any of these things. If you're a comedian, if you're a CEO of a company, or whatever, you're selling you to people. If they don't like you, they're not going to respect what you have to do. They're not going to trust what you have to say. True.
So it's so important to be enthusiastic, because if you're not enthusiastic, you're not going to make them enthused.
It's also crazy that you've been able to do this while, I guess, balancing a quote unquote real job.
Yeah, right.
Like, just how have you been able to sort of find that balance? Because you did have the free time, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, running a business, you're the CEO and founder of Pitcherless. And that has to be time consuming.
Oh, yes.
You have a staff of 80 or whatever writers.
The greatest staff there is.
Right. And you're overseeing that while also, having a quote unquote real job.
Yeah, it helps being at home and having this curtain of people not knowing exactly how much you do. Like at Pitcherless, I remember some people saying, how do you do this? You must be doing all these things. Obviously when you count up the hours, I am overflowing with it. There's overtime and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But to me, I mean, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like this is work. This is what I want to do. With my actual job, I know I often joke about, like, I don't do much for it. Obviously I do, but there is a balancing act of, I get to work at home most of the time. And for me, for self-discipline, I know this is kind of crazy, but I go off into this kitchen and I talk to myself and pace about what I need to do, saying this is how I'm going to do it. I have a whiteboard in my room that I write out everything I need to do and make sure I stay up on that. And anytime I have an idea for something that like, okay, cool, I need to take care of this, I put it on the whiteboard. But it's you have to set your own guidelines. You just have to keep that schedule and discipline.
Because this business is your baby.
Yes.
Pitcherless, right? Were you skeptical at all in sort of getting in bed with these bigger brands, like, doing work with Washington Post and then some stuff with SB Nation and then now MSG? Like, were you skeptical? Like, man, I don't want to like give up anything I'm doing with Pitcherless. I don't want to give up the time, and things like that.
That's the biggest struggle actually this year, is that I'm so used to working at home, and the biggest thing I've had to learn is to delegate more. I'm in a very fortunate situation where I do have that massive staff. And I need to make sure that I communicate more so with my manager team to say, hey, these are the things I can take care of and these things I can't. And I will say at the very beginning, I had this idea in my head that I needed that innately. And you don't necessarily. It's nice, over time to eventually get to that. But I think that a lot of people are, I was afraid necessarily of jumping into something on my own in that. And you don't kind of know what you're capable of, I guess, or you can do a lot more things than you know if you just kind of jump into it. Be okay making mistakes, because I've made a lot, and I'm sure I'll make a lot more. I
was just about to ask, is there anything you would have done differently? But it sounds like
so many things. There was one time with the site that I made a new friend that was a web developer. He said, look, I'm going to take you away from WordPress. I'm going to create this new website for you.
Okay.
It's going to be great. You're going to get all these things that you want and all that. And that just kind of fell through after I had committed to his website. So essentially we had a year at the site where we had new writers. They couldn't even log in on their own. So that they had to email me articles, and I had to put them up myself for an entire season. And
that's a pain in the
it's one of those things that I look at them. Like, of course, I can't. I essentially gave him so much power in that.
Yeah.
That I shouldn't have done. There's so many other things where I either became too ambitious with something that I'm happy I learned that lesson now. But just like there are little things on the way that you pick things up.
It's been 5 years.
Yes.
I'm not gonna say where do you see this going in 5 years, because you probably can't predict that. But what are, I guess, your aspirations are for Pitcherless, and as far as continued growth is concerned?
I think the thing for the site that we realized the most is that it's built on the idea that there used to be this wall. In order to have your voice heard, you had to be part of these major sites like ESPN or CBS or NBC, all these. The wall between that, or the bridge, is impossible almost. You have to beat it down until you finally get your lucky break, and then that's the only way you can do it. And it prevented a lot of voices from being heard. As a whole, it's an opportunity for all these talented people to have their voice being heard. And then we're just going to get bigger with more stuff. Like, we have fantasy football now. We're going to have fantasy basketball. It's going to be called swishlist.net. Greatest pun ever. Thank you very much. And but I'm so proud of that one. No, but no, obviously, I just believe in us creating things that people want. And we're going to keep growing. And the financials of it are going to work themselves out. I don't need to be paid a certain amount of salary. I don't need my bonus at the end of the year or stuff like that. Like, as long as we are growing, that's what matters. We're on Patreon, which a lot of those sites wouldn't have known or do. We utilize GIFs, and we were the first ones to really capitalize on GIFs. And there's a lot more stuff, I think, with the internet that we can take advantage of that I really look forward to us doing in the future years.
All right, that's it for this week of Side Hustle. We really hope you enjoyed that conversation with Nick Pollack. We will be back next week with some more content, but until then, take care.